Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss about analogy. So in this analogy, this topic is very important for almost all the exams like UPSC, SSC and state public service commissions as well. So today we are going to discuss about analogy. So this analogy, we are having three types of analogy. One is called as number analogy, word analogy and letter analogy. So now in this session, we are going to start with number analogy. See here, number analogy. So first of all, we should know what is analogy. First of all, we should know the definition of analogy. What exactly is the meaning of analogy? See, analogy means establishing the relationship between two given words between it may be a word or maybe a letter or maybe a number as well. So this is analogy. So we have to establish the relationship between word, letter or number. So why this topic is very important for exam? Particularly those who are preparing for government exams, generally when you are doing your duties, there are a lot of situations will arise. In these situations, the student or the person who is doing job should be in a position to relate the two given situations. So that is also kind of analogy. So in those cases, they are going to establish the relationship between two given situations. But while you are writing the examiner is going to test to establish the relationship between either word, letter or number. Okay? Particularly, if you see this number analogy, the topic now that we are going to start. So generally, he will give two numbers and he will ask to establish the relationship between these two numbers. Okay? So this relationship made of different types. For example, the first one, we start with squares. So he will take the squares and he will try to establish the relationship with respect to squares as well. For example, if you see some examples, for example, there is something like 16 and 36. In the same way, he will ask to establish the relationship between 25 and how much, right? So the moment I say this, I know it is what? 16, which is a square, and 36 also a square. So what is 16 means? I can write it like a 4 square, and whereas 36, I can write like what? 6 square. So how much I added here? From here to here, it is increased by plus 1 and then square. Now here it is 25 means we know it is what? 5 square, and we have to add plus 1, that becomes what? 6, and then you have to write 6 square, that is 36. So whatever the relationship that we established in this case, the same relation you have to apply to this question and you have to get what? Answer. You have to get the answer. So this is what analogy is. So establishing the relationship between two given numbers, whatever the relation that you established, this relation you have to apply to the question and you have to get the answer. Okay. Similarly, in the examination, not only the squares, but the values near the squares also will be asked in the exam. It means, for example, not only squares, we can expect the questions from n square plus 1 type. In the same way, we can expect the questions from n square plus 2 type. Similarly, we can expect the questions from n square plus 3 type can be expected. Similarly, we can expect like n square minus 1, n square minus 2, and n square minus 3 format as well. So these are the different types of formats that can be asked in the exam. Similarly, the most important type of format that can be expected in the exam is, it is like n square plus n and n square minus n. So this is the most important format generally we can expect in the exam as well. Not only this, there are sometimes the questions can be expected like the squares and additions, squares and multiplications, squares and divisions. Means there's a combination type of questions is also possible. Okay, so this is with respect to the squares. Next type you can expect is with respect to the cubes. Next type you can expect with respect to cubes. In the sense that he will ask regarding cubes like n cube. So in this case, what are the different types of questions that can be expected? One is directly the cube format. The cube format type of questions can be expected. For example, he may ask like 1, 8. In the same way, 64, how much? Okay. The moment I see this 1 and 8, I can write it as a 1 cube, and I can write this as a 2 cube. So whatever the relationship that I established, now I know that it is a 4 cube. Obviously here it is increased by how much? Plus 1. So here also you increase by plus 1, and your answer will be 5 cube, that is 125. So directly questions based on cubes can be expected, but that type of questions comes under the easy category. Now in the similarly, we can expect many type of questions in this format as well. For example, the questions like n cube plus 1, n cube plus 2, n cube plus 3 type, or similarly you can expect the questions like n cube minus 1, n cube minus 2, and n cube minus 3. Similarly, the most important type of format that we can expect in the exam is n cube plus n and n cube minus n. So obviously this n cube plus 1 and n cube minus 1 becomes the most important in the examination. Okay, so this is about our squares format, and then followed by cubes format. There is another format that we can expect in the exam is either the type of factors, or sometimes we can expect from even multiples as well. So based on factors and multiples. For example, how we can expect the questions from factors and multiples. For example, you take any factor. For example, I am taking like this. For example, here 5, 35. Okay. Similarly, 6, how much? So this kind of questions can be expected. The moment I see this, it's a multiple. Okay. So it is how many times it is multiplying? So obviously 7 times. So here also you can write like into 7 times. Okay, it's kind of a multiple. Or if you want to convert into ratio, because both are multiples of 5, so I can convert into ratio like 1:7. So 1:7. Similarly, here also 1:7, right? See, just I am giving a simple example here, but once you enter into the examinations, when you start solving the questions, you can expect different types of ratios. Maybe it's in the form of 6:7, 2:3, or 3:4, or 3:5. So different types of ratios are possible. But what is most important is this format. One need to remember this format for the exam. Apart from this, there are again different types of analogy questions are possible. The next one will be your sum of digits. Sum of digits. So in case of sum of digits, for example, the question will be something like this. 1, 2, 3 is called as 6. Okay. In the same way, how 374 is written. So that depends upon the options as well. So in this case, the moment I say this, I can clearly say that it is in the format of sum of digits. Okay, it's even a multiplication of digits also you get 6 only. But remember that it's the sum of digits. So I can write like 1 plus 2 plus 3. It gives what? 6. So this is the relation. In the same way, I can say like 3 plus 7 plus 4. Then your answer will be 14. Right? Similarly, not only the sum of digits, even the same format can be applicable for even multiplication of digits as well. Multiplication of digits. Okay. For example, see the same question. If you are seeing the same question, in this case, for example, it is 1, 2, 3. Similarly, I can write like 1 into 2 into 3. Obviously, it is equal to what? 6. Similarly, I can write like, now the answer will become something like this. For example, 374, how much? So simply I can write like 3 into 7 into 4. So obviously 7 3s are 21. 21 4 times. Obviously your answer is 84. So like this, you can see expected questions from the multiplication of digits as well. But if you see the most important point in this particular type of analogy is, there is something called as combination. Combinations. And these combinations is very, 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 very important for the exam. So what exactly is mean the combination? So combination of various types of combinations can be possible. For example, the combinations with respect to squares. So I can see like squares, and then he is going to for multiply. So squares and multiplies can be seen. In the similarly, we can see squares, and then he will do division. So first he will going to increase the number, he is going to do square, and then followed by again division. Okay. Similarly, we can see questions like squares and then similarly we can see squares and then addition. For example, there is something like 3 square plus 2, or 8 square plus 9, or 15 square plus 12. So like this, the squares and additions are possible. With respect to the same as well, with respect to cubes, so n cube multiplications are possible, n cube divisions are possible. In the same way, n cube and then additions are possible. So cubes and multiplications, cubes and divisions, and cubes and additions are possible. So different types of possibility I am talking about. Followed by addition and multiplication, or multiplication and then addition. So this type of formats can be expected in the exam. Similarly, we can say multiplications and subtractions, or you can say subtraction and then multiplications can also be seen. Apart from these, we can see like additions and then divisions, then followed by subtractions again and then divisions, then we can followed by plus and then divisions. So divisions and additions. So like this, so whatever the multiplications, additions, subtractions, squares, cubes and all, he can combine everything. So he will combine everything, and he will try to give the and he will try to create the question in the exam. So then the student has to recognize that this question is mainly from the combination type of questions, right? So we are discussing about factors, squares, multiples, sum of digits, multiplication of digits, or sometimes even the questions can be asked on prime numbers as well. Can be asked from prime numbers as well. For example, he will give two successive prime numbers, and he will try to establish the relationship between two successive prime numbers. Not only this, he may even give two successive squares of the prime numbers, as well as successive cubes of the prime numbers as well. For example, cube of prime numbers means here 2 cube, here 5 cube. He may ask like that. Under the options, you will have two prime numbers, consecutive prime numbers, squares, or consecutive prime numbers, cubes can also be expected in the exam. So you may ask anything. Okay, so these are the various types of analogy questions that can be possible in the examinations, right? So now, till now, we discussed about various types of questions that can be asked in number analogy. So one need to remember about squares, at least till 30 squares, everybody should know. Then followed by cubes, at least 12 cube up to 12 cube, that is 1 to 12 cube. Then followed by everybody should be perfect about the tables. Once you are perfect with this, then in analogy we will try to establish the relationship between two given numbers. So that relationship can be either by squares or near the values of squares, or cubes near the values of cubes, or otherwise it can be either factors or multiples, sum of digits, it may be a multiplication of digits, or even it may be a combinations. And in the combinations, we know that various types of combinations can be possible. Similarly, even if we take the prime numbers, even the combinations with respect to the prime numbers are also possible. In the next session, we are going to solve the questions based on number analogy. Thank you.